welcome to the new year. This is episode 7 of the Koop Scoop. My name's Steve Kuplast, and I'm with my good friend Joe Mahan over here.
How are you, everyone?
And today we're going to be doing we're going to continue our discussion of baseball. We're going to start off with how the game has changed over the last couple of years. So what are your thoughts about the game?
Well, what you were saying recently is the game's changes. Now some of the best players are relief pitchers.
Yes, that's
That's a big change because it used to be the starting pitchers with the star.
They were, yes. Well, offensive players, but offense is like very much down the last couple of years.
Yes. Now, as far as offense, say the league is clean now from steroids, right? We'll just assume. But now you're seeing pitchers, they're 6'5", 225, right? Where a second baseman is not going to be that size.
No, exactly.
So if you're getting pitchers that are that big, offense is going to go down, wouldn't it?
It would, because now you're going to have these pitchers who are going to overpower these short little guys.
Yeah, flamethrowers. Yeah,
like how Randy Johnson overpowered everybody that he came across.
So because like I said, you're not going to be getting 6'4" players to play second base.
No, I mean I don't think there's any 6'4"
for that position.
Not for that position.
Other positions you could have big guys. You can have big guys in every position besides, I think, second base.
Well, shortstop is another one. You can't really have big guys.
Not that big, but A-Rod was big.
So was Cal Ripken Jr.
Cal Ripken Jr. was
I think
big.
Ripken was the first. I think he was 6'2" or something like that.
So it might change in that way, where you need bigger guys. Now, what as far as baseball, what do you think it needs to be reformed? What do they really need to work on?
I think they need to get rid of the DH on the full time, because I don't like the DH in the National League full time.
Yeah,
that was kind of I didn't like that. I know they experimented with it last year for the first time.
Yeah.
There's that. They have to clean up the number of pitching changes. Because there's we saw in the World Series this past year there was a no-hitter, a combined no-hitter thrown in the World Series.
Yeah.
It's like 7 pitches used by one team.
Right. Yep.
To throw a no-hitter, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Because I was watching some World Series games on YouTube. They were 2.5 hours. We talk about Bob Gibson, that era. 2.5 hour games. Now what are they? 4 hours?
Now they're like 4, 5, 6, 7 hour long because you got all these pitching changes.
Yep.
You have starting pitches not going any longer than 4 innings anymore.
Yeah.
Which is another kind of waste of time.
Yeah. So that's one of the things they got to clean up. Hey, you know what's funny? Like there must be a few of them. Like say in Boston. Imagine this. Let's guess how many fans you think there are in New England that watch every Red Sox game. I bet you there's about a couple thousand. I mean, every game.
Imagine in my lifetime, I only knew one person who had season tickets, and he went to every single game.
All right, yeah, something like that.
So
every single game.
162 games. You figure 81 games at home. He went to every single home game that season.
And then he was probably watching them all.
He was watching all the road games, but obviously he would stay up and watch the West Coast games.
Oh, well, yeah.
But I'm like, I wouldn't be able to unless if I was working for the team full time.
Yeah, because that's a long night. A friend of mine, he loves the Red Sox. He would watch the pregame, the game, and the postgame.
That's a lot.
That is and we're talking from 1 in the afternoon to almost like 8 at night. It's like something like that because he'd watch the whole thing. Do you think what sports? We talked about this before. What sports moving forward is still going to be there? Like I think football's kind of not going to last.
I mean,
I could be. I think baseball and basketball are going to be around.
I think they'd be around because obviously baseball is America's pastime.
Yeah.
It's been since the whatever year they invented it. I think football will stay around, but I think it's going to eventually change to flag football.
Oh, wow.
Instead of tackle football.
Yeah.
Hockey, I don't know about hockey. Hockey's not popular. I don't see hockey lasting.
Yeah, that's what I think. So you think baseball and basketball?
I think it's baseball, basketball, and I think soccer's going to be around because it's like the #1 sport around the world.
Yep. Yeah, so baseball was America's game. I talk about a guy I know, and I mention you. He loves his Yankees, and we talk about that 114 win season,
the 98 season,
when they won it all, he says it's the best team of all time.
I still think it is, but I think there's some debate between that and the 27 Yankees, because
that's what he was saying too. Murderers Row.
The 27 Yankees, they played less games than the 98 team did.
Yep, but that's something. The 98 team is compared to that 27 team, Murderers Row, with Babe Ruth. Now I know you watched it. I want to watch it again. You saw that Ken Burns baseball. I want to watch that again. I want to watch that again because it's been a while.
It has been a while for me too, but I know he started off like the early years of baseball and went through like all the way to modern times.
Yeah, because you were saying on the last show the dead ball era. Was that when Ty Cobb was doing his thing? The dead ball era?
Ty Cobb. I think Babe Ruth. Well, actually,
wow. Babe Ruth probably, yeah.
I think Babe Ruth kind of changed it to like the modern day times.
Yeah.
Who else? Shoeless Joe Jackson was the dead ball era.
Yeah. Hey, I found out recently, we were talking about this. Ty Cobb was never on a championship team. They went to the World Series a couple times.
I don't think he ever won.
Yep.
Because he played his whole career. I think with
Tigers.
I think it was the Tigers.
Because I think early on he went to the World Series twice with the Tigers. They got beat. But that's too bad because Ty Cobb.
He's all-time. He holds the all-time batting average record.
Right. If you were picking an all-time team, I imagine you're going to have Ty Cobb in there.
I would think so. Babe Ruth.
Ted Williams. Oh yeah, I talked to you recently. We haven't done a show in a while, but we still talk baseball almost every time we see each other. I'm convinced now that Ted Williams is the greatest hitter of all time. Before I was thinking Babe.
I think he is. I think if Ted Williams didn't go and serve the country during World War II?
Yep.
Was it like 3-4 years? In Korea.
Yep, he would have.
I think he would have had 800 home runs.
Wow, so you're right. Yep.
Because he had 522, I believe, 521, I think.
Yeah,
it was.
You're right. Yep.
Something around that line.
Yeah, so he would, and plus, I didn't realize until a month ago he won 2 Triple Crowns. The only player to do it. Ted Williams. Right. I did not know that. 2 Triple Crowns.
2 Triple Crowns. Yeah. I forget what years. I think it was the year. One of the years I think was the year he had 400. I believe.
Oh yeah, 41, 406. Yep.
And I forget what the other one was. So the other year.
Do you know the story about that? What was he hitting the last game of the season? His manager asked him, "Do you want to sit down?"
I think he was hitting just under 400.
399.7, which would have rounded out to 400. Ted Williams said, "I'm playing." He played in a double header, went 4 for 6, and finished at 406.
But the closest player that hit 400 since then was Tony Gwynn.
Oh yeah.
But he didn't hit 4.
Yeah.
He could have, but the strike kind of messed it up.
Yeah, me and you like Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn.
Those were the era when Tony Gwynn and I call him Boggsy, Wade Boggs, they were hitting 330, 335. Now it's going back to
it's going back 310, 320s.
Yeah, that's how good they were. Boggsy and Tony Gwynn, and was another good hitter was Edgar Martinez.
Yes, I don't think he ever won I don't know if he ever won a batting title or not.
Yeah, he was good. Do you remember him? He had to play some position at one point.
He played third base before. I think he had injuries.
And
I think his knees started acting up.
Right.
But he could still hit. I think it was that, and he couldn't play the field that well, but they knew he could still hit, so he became a full-time designated hitter.
Right. Like we were talking about, we were helping out at the church. We were talking baseball, and our friend Jordan here is the floor director, and his cousin Rodney would say, "What are you guys going to talk baseball? You're going to help load these trucks?" Yes, But we were talking baseball in between the breaks. But now that we talked about Edgar Martinez, let's talk a little bit about Seattle.
Let's do that.
Some of the great players: Ichiro Suzuki, Randy Johnson,
Ken Griffey Jr.,
Alex Rodriguez,
Jay Buhner.
And they never got to a World Series.
Never did. They never won. They've never been to a World Series.
Right. Now, why is that? I think it's the weather, or am I way off in Seattle?
No, cold. I think a lot of it was when Lou Piniella was there. He didn't have a great bullpen.
All right.
He had. He had a good starting rotation, but his bullpen was just brutal.
Okay. That was when they broke the record regular season.
Yeah, but they didn't have Griffey. Griffey wasn't there on that time. I don't know who they had in that. But I know Griffey wasn't with the Mariners in 01.
Yeah.
But it was just either that or Lou Piniella was just a bad manager in October.
Yeah, because we got to find out who was the general manager back then that was finding all these players.
There's some guy named Woodward. I forget his first name now.
All-time players. but they could never get it done. And then, of course, they bring in Ichiro Suzuki, one of the cool names, one of my favorite players. You were telling me in a text, he won Rookie of the Year and MVP his first year in the major leagues.
Him and Fred Lynn are the only two players to do so.
Wow, yep.
To win. I forget what year. I think Fred Lynn was 75, I believe.
Yeah, Fred Lynn, I was talking to my buddy the other day about this, and me and my friend loved Jimmy Rice. And we were talking about Fred Lynn, and he was kind of like a comet. He had that great year, then he got paid, then he went out to California, and he had a good career, but he certainly wasn't as good as Jim Ed Rice.
He didn't have a Hall of Fame career,
nope.
But Jim Rice had a Hall of Fame career. But
why did Jimmy Rice take so long to get in the Hall of Fame? You know?
I don't know the actual reason.
The sports writers didn't like him.
Is that what it was?
Because in baseball, sports writers have all the power, and Jim Rice was very surly. And they remember that. But the other reason was he didn't get in was, and we talked about this, he finished with a 298 career average.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I believe 16 homers short of 400.
400.
Because he had a bum elbow at the end. But if you would have, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but if he would have got that up to 300 and get up to 400, you should be first ballot.
Right.
But he still
wasn't a first ballot.
No, he wasn't because of that. And they make a good point about Hall of Famers. If you're the most dominant for 10 years, you should be in. It doesn't mean you're, like sometimes they get in like, who was that second baseman for Houston? He got all the Biggio.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Because he had so many hits. Where Jimmy Rice was good for 10 years, dominant. Another player we talk about, Dave Parker, the Cobra.
He's not in the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
2 championships. Yep.
He's one of your favorite players. He's not in the Hall of Fame.
He's 6'5". He won 2 batting championships in a row with the Pirates when he was young. And Dave Parker used to say, when the leaves turn brown, Dave Parker has the batting crown. So he won 2 batting championships in a row, an MVP, and then in '79 they won the championship. The We Are Family Pirates, one of my favorite teams. My mom's from Pennsylvania, but I love Dave Parker, the Cobra. And we were talking about his throw in the All-Star game.
We were, yes. It was in Tiger Stadium, I believe, wasn't it?
One of the best throws in history.
I actually just saw that. I just saw that on YouTube the other day.
Yeah, I love Dave Parker. And then he won that championship in '89 with the Oakland A's. So I love Dave Parker.
That was the Earthquake series.
Yep. Hey, you were talking about Lou Piniella.
Yes.
But he did win a World Series. They won 4-0. They beat the mighty A's.
It was in 1990.
With Cincinnati. They swept them.
Which they weren't even supposed to be a playoff team that year, and they ended up.
Yep. So Lou Piniella is a pretty good manager. He's got a World Series. He's got the record for the best regular series with the Seattle. And he's got a ring with the Yankees, maybe 2.
I think he has 2.
So he's one of the, as far as overall career, one of the greats. Hey,
but he's not in the Hall of Fame, though.
No, he's not in the Hall of Fame. And we're talking about Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth wanted to be a manager, and you know this, and no one gave him a chance. And like I was saying to you, why wouldn't a team at the bottom give him a chance just for the box office?
I think I know the reason for that. I could be wrong, though, but when he was in Boston, one of the reasons they got rid of him was because of his attitude issues he had. He had there's some personality disorder and an attitude he would give his teammates.
Oh.
So I think that's why he never got a chance to manage.
Yeah, because a lot of it with him was back then, like, on the train, Babe Ruth would be partying, and the sports writers wouldn't say what was going on. In one time, Babe Ruth was, he wasn't wearing any clothes, and he was chasing a lady through the train. Fun.
I heard about this.
Right,
yeah.
And so stuff like that. Well, it's really, big. Other thing with Babe Ruth, he drank, he smoked, he ate hot dogs, he ate orange sodas but he's one of my favorites. I think he should have got a chance, but I could see the Yankees not wanting to give him a chance. But my point is, why wouldn't another team that's not doing anything give him a chance as a manager just for the box office? They must have been something where it was collusion. Say no, don't give him an opportunity.
I think it was because of his attitude problem.
Wow.
I know when Harry Faze made that sale or chose him away, it was mentioned in the documentary that It was his.
Oh, so I didn't know that. So I thought that he was friendly with his teammates. He might have been.
No, I don't think he was. I think
surly.
I think he was like kind of like one of those because he was the best player of his time.
Oh, so he might have been like real arrogant.
I think that's what it was.
Like he wasn't likable. See, I didn't know that because.
But I think he hit more home runs than 714. There's obviously.
Yeah. No, Babe Ruth is the GOAT of baseball.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And who's second? I think it's Willie Mays.
I would go with Hank Aaron.
Right. Boy, yup. Or Hank Aaron. Right. Or Hank Aaron. You're right. But why is Babe Ruth the GOAT of baseball? Because he was a pitcher. He won 92 games regular season as a pitcher, was 3 World Series as a pitcher, and then switched and became the all-time offensive leader.
He did, yeah.
So that would be like Wayne Gretzky winning 3 championships as a goalie and then switching over and breaking all the offensive records. So Babe Ruth is the GOAT of baseball. Babe Ruth is the GOAT of all the 4 sports. So who's the GOAT of football?
I'm going to have to say it's Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, yep. And who's the GOAT of hockey? The great one.
Wayne Gretzky. Probably Wayne Gretzky.
Yep. Babe Ruth. And basketball, Michael Jordan. But now some people are saying, don't forget Bill Russell with 11 rings.
Bill Russell.
And some people even say Jabbar, who's got 6 rings. You know, because if Michael Jordan is the GOAT, I'll go there. But it's funny because even some young bloods who never saw, I never saw Bill Russell. They'll say to me, how come Bill Russell's not the GOAT over Michael Jordan? He's got 11 rings. And it might be with Jordan because he was in the TV era and he had Nike backing him up.
Oh, could be.
Either way, Michael Jordan is 6-0 in the finals and no one ever took him to Game 7. So basketball, you could say there's different argument who's the GOAT. Football, it's over. Brady's the GOAT. You know, hockey, some people you could still say Gordie Howe, but Wayne Gretzky. But I never thought about that because I always thought Willie Mays is the second GOAT to Babe. But you're right, Hank Aaron, because Hank Aaron, we were saying, won some batting titles.
Yeah, I think he won 2. I believe
2 batting titles and finished his career with the home run championship.
He still should have the record, but there's some question. There's some controversy with that with Barry Bonds. So.
Well, Barry Bonds. What happened with Barry Bonds? Why did he get all built up?
I mean, again, because I think he was jealous of what happened with McGwire and Sosa.
Getting all that attention.
I think in the late 90s, what happened with McGwire and Sosa, he got jealous of not getting any media attention. Yeah,
and then he got roided up, and the next spring came back. Everybody could see how different he looked, Barry Bonds.
Because he was going through some knee injuries towards the late 90s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When McGwire and Sosa were doing that home run chase. So I think he got jealous about not receiving the attention that he felt he should get. So he's like, oh, he's just going to juice up.
Yeah, and the thing about Barry Bonds, my nephew loves him. He don't care about the juicing. He loves Barry Bonds. And so does my buddy. Barry Bonds had one of the best eyes in baseball history.
Oh, absolutely.
Along with Tony Gwynn and Ted Williams.
Ted Williams.
Barry Bonds could spot if it was going to be on the corner and off because he walked a lot.
He did.
So Barry Bonds was a great player. There's a lot of controversy, but Barry Bonds wasn't the only one doing roids. Roger Clemens, Alex Rodriguez. You could go on and on.
Manny Ramirez is another one.
Manny. Some people say Big Papi was on the roids.
I mean, it's
tough to say with him
because no one really knows. There's
I mean, he was bigger, but he didn't really look like Barry Bonds. You could kind of tell he was on the roids. His head got bigger.
Yeah.
And how about Sammy Sosa?
Sammy Sosa, yeah.
A friend of mine, when I was living in Las Vegas, he worked at the Rio, and he said he met Sammy Sosa at the bar. He said, I never seen anyone whose shoulders were so wide. And do you remember when Sammy Sosa, you see it on YouTube, when he came up? He was our size.
He was like a skinny.
Yeah, he was our size, 160, 170, something like that.
He was a skinny, fast guy.
Yeah, he was. And then later on, he's like, wow. Sammy Sosa was good, and he was good with the fans. He got paid.
But he kind of had a little downfall with Chicago when they done his way out of Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's still some hurt feelings with him in Chicago right now.
Yeah, so he was good back then. Now, let's talk a little bit about your Braves, Bobby Cox. I didn't know that he was so argumentative with people.
Well, I think he still holds the record for most ejections by a manager. I forget how many games he's been
ejected. And didn't he want to get in a fight with Joe Torre?
He did because he met up with Joe Torre, and I mean his teams would they met up in the World Series a couple times, and Joe Torre beat him every year.
Right, yeah. He wanted to, what did the captain Derek Jeter call Joe Torre? Mr. Torre.
Mr. Torre, I think.
Yeah,
right?
he was class, Derek Jeter. I mean, you got to admit, being in the Big Apple all those years and winning championship with the spotlight on you.
Oh, he was
and he knew exactly what to say. You know, Derek Jeter was. I mean, does he know the media game? And he was class. I love him. I'm a Red Sox fan. And I like Derek Jeter. Didn't Derek Jeter, wasn't his dream to play for the Yankees?
His dream was to be to play shortstop for the Yankees, which ended up happening. I don't even think he was from New York to begin with.
Yeah, I think he was from Ohio. I'm not sure.
So.
I know. Yeah, I know Steinbrenner was.
Steinbrenner was, yes.
Hey, how did Steinbrenner's family make their money?
It was
I think it was shipping industry, and I know they're from Ohio, but we'll find out. Yeah, George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner's family made the money. See, a lot of times, like we talk about this, people are going to admire someone who built their empire, other than, well, just say for instance, if you're an owner's son or daughter, you didn't build it. Like, you could go on and on. Jonathan Kraft, you're an owner's son. Stephen Jones, Jeannie Buss, who's a great executive for the Lakers. But you always, I do, and I think you do too, don't you admire someone who built it? Like Dr. Jerry Buss built that fortune.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban of Dallas built that fortune. George Steinbrenner got the money from his family.
But he also built the World Championships.
No, even though they do a great job, like I like Jonathan Kraft. He's doing a great job. And that's just the way it goes. You're never going to be looked upon the same if you didn't build it. Don't you agree with that? You might take it from a 2 to 10 billion, but that's just the way it is. You're always going to be the owner's son or daughter.
Well, that's what it is with Hal Steinbrenner right now. He's
right,
always referred to as the son of George Steinbrenner.
Right, and that's the way it goes. You're in the family business. Hey, you know how Mark Cuban made his money from the Dallas Mavericks?
No, I know.
Broadcast.com. It was back in the early days of the internet, and someone paid him like a crazy amount of money because they wanted that software, and then he turned it into the Dallas Mavericks, and they got a championship. But it's just something interesting. But you notice on and on, you see, I'd have to think off the top. Well, one guy, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, he made money on his own. He's the richest owner, one of the richest owners in the NFL. He made it on Wall Street. David Tepper.
I did not know that.
But that's something when they say this guy's richer than the one of the owners of the Rams is Walmart, and you're richer than them. Stan Kroenke. You know who his wife is? One of the Walmarts, and he's rich. So they want it, but it's just something interesting about owners. Like, your owner back in the day, Ted Turner for the Braves.
Right. Yeah.
He came from the family, built it up, but he built CNN.
He did.
And like you were saying, the Braves were a national team because they were on TBS every.
When I was growing up, they played on. That's why I became a Braves fan, because they were on
TBS. They had those good teams. They did a great job. Your Braves. You're happy they won the World Series a couple of years ago.
Yes, it was 2021.
Yep.
But I didn't realize it was only their fourth time ever win the World Series out of all those Octobers they played, all those postseasons they were in.
Because it's a great franchise, and they even had some good years when they had Dale Murphy, when they had those blue uniforms.
He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
he's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
Right, he was good. So it is a great franchise, but that shows you how tough it is to win championship. How about the Cleveland Indians?
They haven't won since 1940,
right?
I think, or something like that.
And boy, they got good fans, but they got heartbreak with the Cleveland. What's the name now? The Cleveland Guardians.
Now, because
they changed that. And that's cool. You change names. I think some names, it's a bygone era. You should change the name, but don't change it to a Disney movie. Think about something else. Use your head a little.
Well, I think the owners came up with that name.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, like the. Like in football, they have the Washington Commanders now. Some people thought, just go back to the Washington Senators, the old baseball. But I have no problem with that changing names if it's a bygone era. It was kind of weird all those years they would name teams after an animal, like the Detroit Tigers or the Detroit Lions. Yeah, the Cubs. That's a nice name.
Diamondbacks.
The Diamondbacks. Yeah, there's some nice names. The Red Sox.
Coyotes.
Yeah. And then you got the New York Yankees. One of the great. Oh yeah, we forgot to bring up Aaron Judge re-signed.
Oh yes.
With the Yankees.
He's the richest player in the game right now.
Wow. And how long did they sign him?
It's like 10, 12 years
they
or something
went for
like that.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Which I don't like those long-term.
Me neither.
Because now these small market teams have no shot to get these big name players anymore.
Yeah. Now how old is he?
He's going to be in his mid-20s, I would imagine, by now.
And you're paying him, but they know what they're doing. But you sign him that long.
He'll be good for maybe 4 or 5 years, and then he'll kind of start falling apart a little bit.
Yeah. But I think that was a good move, them keeping him.
I don't think he's going to hit 60 home runs. I think now that he broke Maris's record,
right,
he'll probably hit maybe 30, 40. They're not going to pitch to him.
Isn't that amazing that Maris record held up all these years in the American League?
I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it held up all those years.
Roger Maris, he had 61 that year. How many did Mickey Mantle have?
Did he have like 60 something that year?
Mickey Mantle had 60.
They made a movie on that.
Oh yeah,
it's called 61.
Right, Billy Crystal.
I haven't got
a good little movie.
That was a good movie.
You ever watch baseball movies?
Oh yes.
How about The Natural?
That was one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, me too. How about Field of Dreams?
I love that
masterpiece.
With Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner's masterpiece, Field of Dreams. Then you had those one with Fun, Major League with Charlie Sheen.
That was the Bad News Bears.
Right, yeah. I never saw the other one with Kevin Costner where he was a pitcher. I heard that was pretty good.
Yeah, I forget the name of that movie.
Yeah, I heard that was pretty good.
That was a good movie. That was, I think, mid-90s, late 90s.
Yeah, I want to see that. I haven't seen that. But baseball has some great movies.
The Rookie was a good movie. That's based off a true story.
What was that?
You ever hear of Jim Morris? You ever hear of the guy named Jimmy Morris?
Yeah.
He was a high school teacher who was drafted at the age of 40 years old.
Oh.
He made a bet with his student. He was a science teacher for high school.
Yeah, I want to see that.
It was either high school or middle school. He made a bet with his students that they perform better.
Yep.
Well, he was a coach for his high school baseball team. He's like, if you guys win the championship, I'm going to attempt to get drafted by the major league. Wow. So he ended up signing. He signed a contract with Tampa Bay at the age of 40.
Yep. Wow.
And he pitched like 2 or 3 years in the major leagues.
See that?
As a reliever.
Amazing. Hey, did you ever see the one Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck when he goes and plays in Japan? That's a nice movie. Nice
that was like early 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, nice little movie because the manager at first, Tom Selleck, doesn't know he speaks English because he keeps hearing him speaking Japanese. Nice love story. That was a nice little, and a movie that for fun. Do you ever see Bernie Mac, Mr. 3000, where he had to come back to get 3,000 hits?
Because he retired. He supposedly got 3,000 hit and he retired right away.
Yeah, he retired. He thought he had 3,000. They found out, wait, he only got.
I think it was like 2. I think it was like, what, 4 or 5 away.
Yeah. So that was a.
But
good
he came
movie.
back like years later when the Brewers were now they were no longer they were now a National League team.
Yep.
And they know where they're going to play him.
The Brewers, have they won a World Series?
The Brewers did, yes, with Robin Yount. They did.
They went to the World Series. They got beat by the Cardinals.
No, they have a World. I think they have a World Series with.
I don't think so. With Yount?
I think so.
Yeah, because I know they got beat by the Cardinals when the Cardinals had Willie McGee when he was a rookie.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if they got a championship.
I'll look that up.
The Brewers. That was called Harvey's Wall Bangers.
That's right. Okay, that's where that came from. Yep.
Yeah, because they had a lot of home run hitters. They went to the World Series, got beat by that Cardinals team with Whitey Herzog. The Cardinals went to the World Series 3 times in the 80s, won 1. So that was a great team.
85, they should have won 85.
Right, that was the one with that Don Deckinger, one of the worst calls. And then 87,
they played the Twins in 87, I believe.
Did the Twins beat the Cardinals?
I think it was the Twins.
Yeah, because the Cardinals, Whitey Herzog, great manager, he had a weird nickname, the White Rat. Because he had really blonde hair.
I mean, really blonde hair. Yeah, I've heard about that.
He was a good manager. One of the managers I like was Joe Torre, but he wasn't that good before he went to the Yankees.
No, he was with the Cardinals for a little bit.
Yep.
But I don't think he had a great team with the Cardinals.
Yeah, yep. So he was around as a manager. Joe Torre. What other managers do you like right now?
Well, there's Terry Francona. He was a awful manager before he came to Boston.
Yeah.
And he won all. And then there obviously is. Well, I liked Bobby Cox, but I didn't really care for him as a person. Who else was there? There's Mike Scioscia was a good manager.
Yep, he's got
He
a
managed for
championship.
well over 10 years.
Yeah, he's got a championship.
Who else is there? Joe Torre was a good manager, like you said.
Joe Torre. Boy, that's a long
Who
season,
else?
huh?
I'm trying to think of some other managers that I liked.
And then the guy who Cora, he won a championship.
Alex Cora.
But he's involved in some of that controversy with Houston.
That was in 2018.
Yep. Yeah.
Or was that before? That might have been the year before then.
They had that controversy with Houston. I thought the World Series that was interesting was when Washington won it a few years ago. They won.
Oh yes, they won it.
Four games, and they won all four in Houston.
Yes, that was a good series.
That was the one with that pitcher. He has one blue eye and one brown eye. Max Scherzer. He's cool. I heard he made his name in Detroit when he was older. Did he win a Cy Young?
He has a couple.
And
Cy
then he
Youngs.
got paid. Yeah, it's an interesting story with that guy. Like I said, won that championship with Washington. Beat Houston, but now Houston just won it again.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yeah, they
do have a good franchise.
They do, but I mean, there was some times, very recently, where they would lose 100 games every year.
Oh yeah, yep, yep. Yeah, because back in the day they had
They had Bagwell, they had Alou, they had BGO.
Yep. Who else they had? The great pitcher.
I'm trying to think of Nolan Ryan. Oh no, Nolan Ryan was on those teams.
Yep. And you remember the story with Nolan Ryan when Robin Yount charged them off? If you want to see that on YouTube.
Oh, was that Robin Ventura?
Robin Ventura, right? Robin Ventura. Nolan Ryan's class. He doesn't try to hit people, but I think he came in and high on him. I don't know if it hit him. All of a sudden, Robin Ventura charges Nolan Ryan. And Robin Ventura is like 6 feet.
Something like
and,
that.
Nolan Ryan's like 6'5", outweighed him by 25 pounds. Nolan Ryan just got him in the head like boom.
And started punching him.
Yeah. And Nolan Ryan would pitch a game, and then after the game, he would go on the stationary bike. So that's why he lasted that long.
Well, he would throw over 200 pitches per start, but he pitched over 20 some odd years.
Yeah, I admire him, Nolan
But pitches
Ryan.
in the game today, pitches don't last that long.
No, I liked him, Nolan Ryan. He was on that championship team in '69, the Miracle Mets.
The Miracle Mets.
When the Mets, and isn't something, the Mets won it in '69. I believe in 1960 they had one of the worst records of all time because they were just starting
They
out.
lost 120 games.
Right.
Because the Tigers in 2003 almost broke that record.
Yep.
The Tigers in 03 lost 119 games.
Yeah, because that was a good year for the '69 for New York. Joe Namath won the legendary Super Bowl in January '69, Super Bowl III, and then in September, October, the Mets won, the Miracle Mets, and then in '70, the Knicks won a championship. So those were the golden days of the 70 and 73. The Knicks haven't won a championship since 1973, and that's New York City. I mean, and that's one of the you know what they call them the Garden, the Mecca of basketball. I read a good book recently. It was about the Knicks during the 1990s when they had Pat Riley and Patrick Ewing and Anthony Mason and John Starks. Good book about Pat Riley and the Knicks. Pat Riley was there 4 years, took them to the finals. They lost in Game 7. And then, quick story, James Dolan, who now owns the Knicks, his father made his fortune starting HBO. And then his father built Cablevision in New York, cable TV. So the son, James Dolan, says, I'm going to start running the Knicks, right? So, real quick story. Ernie Grunfeld's wife, Ernie Grunfeld was the general manager and a longtime Knick. His wife was being because in NBA arenas, they'll have like a lounge, MVP lounge, VIP. So you'll have all the big stars in there. So apparently, the general manager's wife was using that bar to be like the queen of the bar, and the owner, James Dolan, fired the general manager because he wanted to be the big star at the bar. But James Dolan is considered one of the worst owners in sports. The Knicks haven't done anything really in 20 years. But that's a good story. That's another story about how James Dolan, his family made all the money, and then you just come in and you're terrible at your job. But good book. Sometimes my nephew, he's a bookworm. He gave me that book, and it was a nice book, But he gave me 2 other sports books, and I got to tell him, don't be giving me these sports books like this. They're too academic, like 900. He gave me a book about basketball. It's like this thick. I'm not. That's like my sister. You know, she's like a bookworm. Bill Simmons, he's writing a basketball book this thick. I'm like, you know, that's a little over my head. And then he gave me another one, baseball, this thick. So I'm gonna tell him, buy me books, but don't buy me encyclopedias. You know, buy me a nice like that Knicks book or. But Bill Simmons, you know the guy. He was at ESPN, and now he's running The Ringer. He got fired from HBO, his show.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah, you know that 30 for 30, that docu-series? Bill Simmons was one of the creators.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep. Then he left ESPN to go to HBO, and his show got canceled in like 3 episodes. Ugh. But he's a great entrepreneur in sports. Now, back to baseball. If you, well, I already know your answer. If you were picking a starting rotation, I know who you would pick. Pedro Martinez.
Yeah. Pedro, Randy Johnson,
Greg
Maddux. I have to go with Maddux no matter what.
You can. He's one of my favorite. But who's your fourth?
My fourth would probably.
We were talking about that. It's a tough one.
We were. I mean, I would probably say.
Yeah, I know you're going to go with one of the Braves, right?
Well, I don't want to go with all Braves.
Right. Who would you go with though? Schilling during those days, or you were going to go with Pettit? And then you said Pettit had some issues with Roy.
With Roy, so maybe. Good. That's hard to really say. It's hard, yeah. Because, I mean, I don't really want to go with all. I mean, as much as Maddux, Smoltz, and Glavine were great, I don't want to.
They're not in the same league with Pedro and Maddux
Johnson or Maddux.
And Johnson.
Maddux
the fourth one's tough to find.
Because, I mean, no one was better at it than Maddux could locate his pitches better than anybody
else. He was one of my favorites. Yeah, he was in
a high. He didn't throw hard like Pedro or Johnson.
Yep. Oh, he could spot those corners. Yep. Yeah, Maddux. It's tough to pick the fourth. That's how it shows you how good Pedro was.
I believe Maddux had maybe just under 400 walks in his career.
Oh, wow.
He pitched over 20-some-odd years. Yep.
I'm not saying put them on your top, but for fun, you know who was fun? David Wells. When he was doing his thing, David Wells winning championships. He was a baseball historian. He would buy like Babe Ruth gloves and stuff like that.
I mean, I would take Roger Clemens probably.
Oh, he was good, right? You're right.
But, I mean, he's not a Hall of Fame. He should be a Hall of Fame, but he's not.
I don't know if Dan Duquette went into the Red Sox Hall of Fame or the Major League Hall of Fame. He was the general manager.
He's in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
All right, I didn't think he was. Okay, because last summer I saw they were doing all kind of shows on Nesson with Dan Duquette, and they had a crazy setup. We talked about this. They did the show at home plate, and they set up 2 chairs. So on one hand it looked cool, and on one hand it looked goofy. You know, but it was nice lighting. But I was saying Dan Duquette was the guy who got rid of Roger Clemens because he said he's not as good as he used to be.
He got rid of. He made some good moves. Like he brought in Pedro Martinez.
That was his claim to fame, right?
He brought in Manny Ramirez. I mean, he lost Mo Vaughn. He lost Wade. Did he lose Wade Boggs?
Yeah, if he brought in Pedro, that'll get you into,
But I mean, he lost Roger Clemens, Mo Vaughn. He brought in Jose Canseco for a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, he made some good moves.
What did Roger Clemens do his first 2 years out of Boston in Toronto?
He won the Cy Young Award.
2 back-to-back Cy Young.
But he won 20 games both years.
That's when they said he went on the roids.
That's when they think because
he slimmed down and he looked more muscular. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just got in shape.
Well, I mean, the first half of his career was like Hall of Fame worthy, but I think it's after he left the Red Sox was what's in question.
Yeah. Hey, remember with Mike Piazza? With Clemens, the bat, Clemens was amazing. I remember when he was testifying to Congress about steroids, and he says to Congress, "Well, I'm just here to help you guys out." Then he's throwing his wife under the bus and his housekeeper.
I think his children too.
He was throwing everybody under the bus. He's saying, "My wife's taking steroids for, you're the one taking the roids." But that was a tough situation because, and I give him. You know, that's hard because if you call, who's it, Rafael Palmeiro, who was pointing at Congress?
Oh, he lied. He lied about steroids and he got caught. Like shortly after lying about it.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough one because if they're calling certain people to testify about steroids, where they're not going to say any names, but they know there's others who are doing it who are getting a free pass. So, but that wasn't their fault. That was Major League Baseball's fault.
Right.
Because I remember back then. The sports writers turned a blind eye. They didn't say anything about. They knew these guys were on the roids, but back then they were accusing hitters, and they were letting the pitchers slide.
Well, they had that. What's it called? The Mitchell report that has the list of all the. It was like 40 some odd players.
Yeah.
Was it like 2002 or something that came out?
Yeah.
It lists like all the players that they think were taking steroids.
Wow. Yeah, that was a you know.
But
it was a bad era for baseball.
I've always wondered what they'll do if, say, someone who's in the Hall of Fame, if they find out that guy took steroids.
Right. Yep.
Like, what do they do if he's in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, because some are in there where I suspect are on roids. I'm not going to say who, because some did get a pass. Because you could see when the body changes. You know, like how would someone like me put on 30 pounds in less than, come on now. And that's 30 pounds of muscle. But what they do when they're taking the roids, they're lifting weights. And when you're on the roids, you're going to pump up.
Well, Jeff Bagwell was one guy in the Hall of Fame.
I think he might have been.
But if you look at his early career, he was a skinny.
Right.
He was a skinny guy.
That's what I mean.
And all of a sudden he goes and hits a bunch of home runs, and he puts up Hall of Fame numbers.
Yeah, like another. It's hard to say because if you're saying Bonds was on him, was Tomey on him? So you don't know.
No, I mean I don't think Tomey was, because Tomey was always a big guy.
He was big, yeah. Because I don't think he was either. But
I mean,
it's tough to say. Because here's the thing about steroids, because I don't know, I never did them, but some people might really be taking a lot of them, like Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa, where some might be taking just a little, where it might give you like 10 pounds of muscle.
Well, look at someone like Alex Rodriguez. He was a skinny guy when he first came up.
Yep. And then later on.
And now he's, what is he, 4th or 5th in the all-time home run list?
Yeah, yep. So it's I don't know what they're going to do about the Hall of Fame with the steroid era. They're going to, if they they're starting to let them in.
Well, I think it's because as the older writers either retire or pass away, like the younger, people my age, the writers are like my age that saw these guys growing up.
Yeah,
they're starting to vote these guys in.
Right, just let them in. You're right, because the writers won't let them in like they didn't let in Jim Ed Rice for years, because he was supposedly very surly with the sports writers. Now, as far as baseball, you've been to Fenway.
I have, yes.
Have you been to day game, night?
I prefer day games.
Yeah.
Like I would go as a kid. I would go like a Saturday game. Yeah. Like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Isn't it nice outside? We can get something to eat.
It is. It's expensive though. Now it's expensive nowadays. I went.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I went with a friend of mine. Forget how much we spent like $8 on one hot dog.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a great time going up there. Have you driven many times in Boston?
I don't drive through Boston. Usually, if I go up there, I'll drop my car from Braintree and take the train up that way.
Yeah, because I used to drive there back in the day, dropping off friends. In Boston's a lot of one-way streets, but now with GPS, piece of cake.
Oh, it's a piece of cake now.
Piece of cake. If you get lost, big deal. Takes you right back. But great city, great sports town. You could make a point that a lot of the GOATs played in Boston. Tom Brady. Babe Ruth,
yeah.
He's not the GOAT, but he's right up there. Bobby Orr, Bill Russell. So if Boston's the #1 sports city, what's 2? Maybe L.A.? Because you got Magic, you got Sandy Koufax,
maybe
you got
LA?
Kareem.
Or maybe New York, maybe
New York. So it's got to be one of those 3. Right, New York. You got the Yankees. The Knicks, forget them.
Or you can throw in Philadelphia if you want to throw Philadelphia.
Philly's a great sports team. Yes, they are, but not that many championships. Because the Phillies have 2 championships, say, in the last 40 years. Basketball, they got 1. Football, they got 1. And hockey, they got, I believe, 2 or 3. So it's a great sports team, great fans, but not that many championships as New York. But New York, and just because you're in New York and you got all that money doesn't mean you're going to have successful franchises. You know.
Well, I mean, look at the Yankees. They haven't won since 2009. That was their last title. That was the last World Championship.
mean, like I'm telling my friend, a Yankee fan, I said, I think it's time to move off Cashman. You go 10 years without a championship in New York Yankees. I say,
Cashman's been there for a long time. He's been there since '97. I think.
Like, what do you think? Would you stay with them because they won you championships, or would you move on?
I think it's time to move on. I think he's been there for too long. I think it's because they haven't won since 2009.
Right.
He's the one who recruits the players in trades.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm not a Yankees fan, so keep not winning championships.
So I think it's time to either give him a different position with the organization or just tell him you can't be the GM
you made more money than you'll ever need. You're not getting it done. Loyalty, I mean, loyalty at some point. He's a multimillionaire. He's not getting the job done. They'll say, "Wait, we've been loyal to you. We're paying you millions of dollars a year. We haven't won a championship in 13 years."
Yeah, 2009 was the last title.
Okay, and well, one thing like right now we're taping this show January 2023. The Patriots just didn't make the playoffs, and a lot of Patriots fans are like, "Bill Belichick, we'll give you a couple more years, but at some point you got to move on."
He's got to move on. Yeah, I think I think his time is coming to an end.
Yeah, he needs about 18 wins to break the all-time record.
I think that's what's going to happen. He'll stay around for now, and then he'll either retire or they'll just move on.
They'll move him on. So I don't know if I'd be a good general manager because I think I might be too emotional. I get fired up.
I think I would too.
But I wouldn't be like keeping a general manager for 14 years like Cashman and saying, "What have you been doing?" Well, wait a minute. You got one of the highest payrolls.
He's got the players that can win the championship.
They spend, but maybe they just love him.
It's probably that too, yeah.
He might be like family. Hey, you helped us get that dynasty. We're staying with you.
I know a lot of Yankee fans who are fed up with Cashman.
Right, yeah, I would be. I would say, hey, those championships were years ago. What have you done lately? Like you could say about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, What have you done lately? So now we got a few minutes left. We're wrapping this up.
So I'm Steve Kuplast and
Joe Mahan. And just want to say this is episode 7.
Episode 7 of the Koop Scoop.
The Koop Scoop, and tell the audience what you're working on. Your docu-series on the Crusades.
It's on the Crusades. I just have to figure out what I'm going to do it on.
Right, because you wrote the book.
I wrote the book,
and now he's coming up with a docu-series on the 4th Crusade.
Which you're helping me put it together.
I'm going to help you. Yeah, it's probably going to be. So we're looking forward
hopefully
to that.
Sometime this year.
We got a lot going on. So the Koop Scoop, episode 7. We just did Jordan's show, Flowing with the Spirit, episode 7.
With Dom on it.
With Dom doing a great job. So thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
See you next time. We're going to jump right into this show. This is episode 1. We're going to talk about Pedro Martinez. I'll tell you a little bit about him. Born October 25th, 1971, 5'11", from the Dominican Republic. Played for 5 teams, 1992, 2009, and the Red Sox, 1998, 2004. So what are your thoughts on Pedro?
He was probably the greatest pitcher I ever saw in my lifetime.
Yep.
He won over 20 games a couple times in his career, especially 1999 was probably his best season. He won the Triple Crown that year. He led the league in wins, strikeouts, and ERA. His performance in the All-Star game that year was something that stands out because he 5 strikeouts. He struck out the first 5 guys he faced. And some of those guys, he struck out Barry Larkin, who was a Hall of Famer, Larry Walker, a Hall of Famer. Obviously Mark McGwire, but Sammy Sosa, Jeff Bagwell. He struck out Jeff Bagwell, who's also a Hall of Famer. Obviously McGwire and Sosa never got into the Hall of Fame because of the whole steroid PED scandal around them. What else? He was his final start with the Red Sox was his only start in the World Series with them, which I kind of wish they kept him, but they just kind of let him walk after that World Series. That was a disappointment for me. Yeah. And then he went through injuries after he signed that contract with the Mets.
Right.
Yep. And that was tough to watch.
Yeah. So his record 219 wins, 100 losses, career ERA 2.93. 3,154 strikeouts.
Which is amazing. I think that's the best. I think that's amazing. I mean, growing up, just whenever it's time to pitch, it was like a big spectacle around the family. Everybody had to stop what they're doing just to watch this guy pitch.
Yep.
I remember it seemed like he would have like 2-3 strikeouts every single inning. It was fun to watch.
He was kind of like his career was long, but he was kind of like a Sandy Koufax. So dominant in that, say, 5-6 year period.
It was mostly with the Red Sox. That's what he was mostly known for. I think people forget he was with the Expos because the Expos were kind of, what's the word? Nobody really paid much attention to the Expos, which is why they're no longer in Montreal. They're moving to DC. But I don't know. I mean, the Expos had some very good players growing up, but they could never keep any of them.
Oh yeah, Andre Dawson, the kid, Gary Carter.
Yep, Gary Carter. He had Larry Walker for a little bit of time. Pedro was there for a brief time.
You know what I found out researching this show? I didn't know or forgot that Pedro won a Cy Young when he was with the Expos.
He did. It was his last season.
1997. Yep.
But I remember the '97 season because he was a free agent at the end of the season, and the Expos. Oh. The Expos were like they were a small market team. They knew they weren't going to be able to afford to keep him. So I remember they were shopping around trying to find out who they could keep because he was a free agent at the '98 coming. So then originally the Yankees were trying to get him, but the Yankees refused to give up Derek Jeter.
Oh,
I remember that was who they were going to get. That's who the Expos wanted.
That's not going to happen.
So it never was going to. So the Yankees were kind of, because at the time Jeter had just won the World Series. Was it World Series Rookie of the Year?
Yeah.
They knew he was going to be something. So.
Yeah.
And the Red Sox had a choice. They needed an ace because they didn't have an ace after Clemens left.
Yeah.
So. They gave up 2 pitching prospects to get him who, at the time, they thought were going to be the next great Roger Clemenses, but it never happened with the two guys they gave up. So they got Pedro, and as soon as they got him, they gave him they signed him that same exact day they traded for him.
Wow, yep.
I forget how much, but it was like 7 years for, how much it was.
Yeah, because he won 3 Cy Youngs, 1997 with the Expos, and 1999 and 2000 with the Red Sox.
Yes.
Well, you say those are his glory
99,
seasons.
Especially 99, because the Red Sox had entered 99. They had just lost Mahan to free agency.
There's a name from the past.
They didn't have their offense was basically going to be built around Nomad.
Yep.
And Pedro just came. I mean, he just finished his first year with the Red Sox, so he comes into his second year. And I remember they were destined. Everybody was like, "Oh, this team's going to win the World Series."
Yep.
Especially the way that Pedro pitched in '99, because to me that season strikeout, he had over 300 strikeouts that season in 1999. So that's what stands out to me. But he won over 20 games. It was probably one of the best seasons of the sophomore pitcher.
Yeah, because he was 3-time strikeout leader, 1999, 2000, and 2002.
Well, 2001 he was injured for most of the season.
Oh, okay.
So that's why he was never up.
What did he have? Like a shoulder?
It was his shoulder. That's when he started having shoulder issues. At the time, it was in 2001.
Yeah, and 1999 he was a Triple Crown in pitching.
Because he led the league in wins, ERA, and strikeouts that year, which is how the pitchers win the Triple Crown. But I'm still disappointed to this day because he was the runner-up for the MVP that year.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't end up getting it because they was like, oh, they can't give an MVP to a pitcher.
It's a pitcher, right. Very rare.
So instead they gave it to Ivan Rodriguez from the Rangers, who was the catcher for the Rangers at the time. But it's still, to me, I thought Pedro's 1999 season was the best I ever saw from a baseball player.
Yeah, because very rare where they give the pitcher the MVP because they figure they're going to get the Cy Young.
Well, because the pitcher, they don't play every single day. They only pitch once every 5 days.
Didn't Eckersley get MVP, but that was when he was a reliever with the A's?
He got the Cy Young Award. He got both. He got a Cy Young and MVP.
I could see that if you're a reliever, MVP. I could see you get an MVP if you're a starter, if you deserve it.
Well, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. 1999. I thought Pedro should have won the MVP in 1999.
Yep.
But it didn't happen.
Yeah. And he was a 5-time major league leader, ERA leader. 97, 99, 2000. 2002 and 2003. You know what's interesting? I found out. I know you probably know this. He was a minor league player of the year in 1991, but he wasn't really highly regarded.
He wasn't because he was a short guy. So nobody. So when he was with the Dodgers, they didn't think he was going to be able to be a starter because he was only 5'11".
Right.
So for his first couple of years with the Dodgers, he was primarily a relief pitcher, and he did decent as a relief pitcher, but. It wasn't until he got to the Expos that he became one of the top pitchers at this time.
When he was with the Dodgers, was he able to throw that heat?
No, it wasn't until he got to the Expos because they were small. At the time when the Dodgers gave up on Pedro, they were looking for a second baseman.
Yeah.
Because they had just lost their second baseman to free agency, so they made the move with the Expos to get some speedy. I can't think of the guy's name, but he was a speedy second baseman. They were looking for a second baseman. It was when he got to the Expos. He actually worked with Joe Kerrigan, who was who was his pitching coach in Montreal and in Boston.
Yep.
And it was Joe Kerrigan who realized that this guy's going to be something special to watch.
So he never really like put on 8 pounds of muscle from. It was basically the same kind of.
He was the same kind, but when it wasn't until he got to Montreal when Joe Kerrigan was his pitching coach. And then when Joe Kerrigan came to Boston to be the pitching coach, he convinced the Red Sox to go after Pedro Martinez.
Right. Wow. Yeah, because Pedro reminds me of Doug Flutie. I'll tell you why. Because Doug Flutie was 5'9" and 3/4, as he would say.
Yes,
but you know what the thing was? He had hands like he was 6'5". And we know the story with Pedro's big hands.
He had long fingers. That's why he was able to throw his fastball, curveball.
Right.
His curveball, I thought, was his best pitch.
Yeah. And they talk about his changeup.
His changeup, his changeup was pretty good too.
Yeah, because you're waiting for that 93 mile an hour, and then something drops in at 84.
Oh, exactly. But I thought his curveball was his. I thought it was his signature pitch was his curveball.
Wow. Yep. And then he played for 5 teams: Dodgers, Expos, Red Sox, Mets, and the Phillies.
The Phillies, it was a brief time. It was his last. He was a mid-season pickup. He signed up because with the Phillies, he didn't begin the year playing, and then the Phillies were looking for a pitcher. So they had signed Pedro halfway through the season, and he helped them get to the World Series.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? He played for 5 teams, 4 National League teams.
He did,
so he was hitting all those years.
He's only one of 3 pitchers to win the Cy Young in both leagues.
Wow. Yup. Yeah, I didn't know that.
So,
and of course, he helps break the curse in 2004. First time the Red Sox won it since 1918. And we got to talk a little about Theo Epstein helping break in the curse with the Red Sox, 2004. And we were talking early, he also helped the Cubs.
He helped the Cubs, yes, in 2016.
And they had the curse of the Billy Goat.
The Billy Goat, yes.
And they beat Cleveland.
They beat Cleveland 7 games in 2016.
Yep, and that was the first time they won the World Series since 1908. So you got to give Theo a lot of respect.
I think when Theo officially retires, he'll be considered for a Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of curious if he ends up going to Cleveland because they haven't won since the 40s.
Might as well. You're right. Yep.
But Theo is an interesting one because when he first he resigned as his position with the Red Sox and then came back.
Oh, that's right.
But it was around the time when Johnny Damon was with the Red Sox. It was when Theo resigned, the Red Sox was Damon to the Yankees and Theo came back.
Yeah. And where did Theo come from?
Theo grew up in Boston. He grew up as a Red Sox fan. I think he was living in California at the time. The Red Sox made him as a.
Because he's big into the analytics.